Hey folks, Ray from Rainmaker.com here, and this is the most disappointing Apple product I've ever purchased. And I've actually purchased a fair number of Apple products. I've used Apple products for video editing, like this Mac here. I've got a Mac notebook in my backpack there. I've got every Apple Watch there is. I buy a lot of stuff. I've got, I think, 5 Apple TVs here in the studio, all over the place. I use a lot of Apple stuff, but I also tend to be the kind of person that goes to the most functional tool for the job. In my case, I use a Mac for video editing, but I use a PC the rest of the day. I use an Apple TV at night to watch TV, but I use a Garmin GPS watch the rest of the day. I use what's right. It's as simple as that. So before people hate on me for being anti-Mac or anti-Apple, I'm kind of wherever it takes me sort of thing. Oh, and before we get too much further, definitely whack that like button on the bottom there if you find this video interesting as you're watching it. It really helps the channel here quite a bit. Now, before we get into all the bad stuff about this product, and there's a lot of it, we're gonna do a quick kind of review of the product itself and kind of the basics of it. This is the box. This is the Beddit box. Costs 149 bucks or 149 euros in my case. Now, I've made some jokes on Twitter about this box itself because the fact that it's blank. And if you walked into an Apple retail store, there's nothing on this box that tells you what it is. The bottom does in fact tell you that it is a sleep tracker device. That's literally all it says. And the fact that it's compatible with an Apple iOS device. It is no longer compatible to Android, which we'll get to in a moment here. But it's kind of pretentious and it's kind of Apple-esque, yes, but you know, a lot of people walking into an Apple retail store would have no idea what Beddit is. And maybe they would Google it or something, though they wouldn't find much information. If they did find information, it'd all be incorrect because it's not this version here.
Now, just as a quick refresher, Apple bought Beddit almost 2 years ago, but the previous version of Beddit 3.0 was released just prior to Apple's acquisition, and this 3.5 version is the first one underneath Apple's kind of corporate ownership. And now Apple has assumed all ownership of Beddit, including support, for example, forwards you off to Apple's site, press releases, all that kind of stuff is now handled by Apple.
So inside the box itself is this strap right here. It is 31 inches long, so just under a meter long, and it's got a really nice 2 meter long cable. I actually like the cable quite a bit. Standard USB plug on the end of it, so not like USB-C or anything like that at this point in time, but that plugs into the little wall outlet adapter that comes in the box. Looks just like an iPhone adapter, and all that works great. So what you do is you take this strap here and you go ahead and you lay it on your bed. There's a black side and a white side. The black side goes down. It has like a little bit stickier substance on it than the white side is, which is nice and smooth. And you put this below your fitted sheets. That's the really tight sheet, if you will, just sitting right there on top of the mattress. That is a little bit different than some other trackers out there. For example, the Winnings one and the MFit one, the MFit QS, that sit below the mattress itself. But it doesn't really matter. Like, I only noticed it maybe the first few minutes of the first night, the fact that it was there because of the sheets right on top of it, but otherwise you never know. This is for one person, so if you have 2 people, you need to get another one, which is kind of standard for most sleep trackers. And it doesn't really matter too much if someone else kind of encroaches on the territory here. I haven't seen it make any difference. So once you got that all set up, you go into the app itself and you'll kind of run through basic Bluetooth smart pairing. So it pairs up to your iOS device via Bluetooth Smart, and it transmits the data from the strap to your phone while you're using it. The setup process only takes a moment. As part of that setup process, you'll lie in the bed, you'll make sure some readings come through it. It's kind of fun. That's probably the most fun you're gonna have with like real-time readings for this device. So definitely take advantage of that moment. As part of the configuration setup process, I'll go ahead and ask you for permission to record the data to Apple Health, or HealthKit as you may know it by. In addition, I'll go ahead and ask you for the time that you want to wake up at, as well as how much sleep you want per night. And then from there, it's gonna add a little bit of buffer time and give you your going to bed suggested time. Now, there is no smart alarms in this at all. This is simply just to decide or kind of give you guidance on when you should be going to bed and how long it usually takes to go to bed and that kind of stuff. It's mostly like second grade math. It's not a whole lot of complexity to it. At that point, you're ready to go to sleep. Now, you do need to go ahead and have your phone plugged in at all times in order to use it. If your phone is not plugged in, the unit will not record. End of story. I learned that hard lesson last night, in fact. So your phone has to be plugged in, and once it's plugged in, it'll just start recording as long as the app is in the background. If you've enabled snoring detection, it'll use the phone's microphone to detect whether or not you're snoring. And in fact, it'll show a little red kind of dot at the corner, just like if you were in a call or something like that. Very, very similar. Now, once you wake up in the morning, it'll show you all of your data. It's pretty straightforward. It gives you no feedback at all in real time. So during the night, you're not going to be able to see what's going on until you wake up and you call that day done, or that night done. So here we are in the app itself, and this is from about 2 days ago. And you can see here that I went to bed at 12:44 a.m. The goal time I set for 12:30. I was asleep for 6 hours and 19 minutes. If I scroll down into this, You can see I apparently was snoring before 3 a.m. I was asleep in all those blue bars there. I was in bed until somewhere between 7 and 8 o'clock. You can't really tell with the app, which is sort of part of the frustration here. None of this stuff is clickable. I can't like expand any of this. I can't click on any of this and get any more detail. All that feature, that functionality, that's all kind of gone these days. It shows me what time I was in bed. So if I went to bed but wasn't necessarily asleep, you can see that right there. Time to fall asleep was 0 minutes apparently for this night. Time awake was 17 minutes. Time snoring, 24 minutes. And so on down through this. You can see the screen right there. All the stuff's pretty straightforward. It does record breathing rate, which is something that's relatively unique in this category until you go to higher prices. And then there's the average temperature and humidity. You can see my heart rate throughout the night. It does take those heart rate readings at 5-minute intervals. And in fact, you can see that in Apple Health later on if you want to. The same for the breathing rate as well. That's also ported into Apple Health at 5-minute intervals. The sleep duration is actually really interesting when it goes in Apple to Health. It does not give you an entire night full of sleep. It breaks into all these weird little chunks, and I'm not really sure why they do that. It kind of messes with stuff a little bit. Even if those chunks are exactly adjacent to each other, like by the same minute, it just breaks them apart. It would make sense, of course, if you went off and watched a movie in the middle of the night for an hour, but it's a little odd how they do that. But anyway, that's besides the point. We're getting distracted here. You can see my average heart rate, my lowest heart rate, my highest heart rate. I can't click on any point in this graph though to see what those heart rates were at those different points at night. So if I was doing like the horizontal shuffle, I couldn't see what my heart rate was in that because you can't see, you get the point. And it asked me how I felt that morning, just a 1 through 7 score, and that plots it in trending, which is the second tab here that you have. This is where you can see each of those core metrics trended over 7, 30, or 90-day periods. All this is pretty straightforward. So you can see my sleep time right there. You can see the bedtime, whether I hit it or missed it for going to bed that night, my average nightly heart rate, my bedroom temperature, my bedroom humidity, and the morning feeling if I remember to hit that little button. It doesn't actually pop up and remind you, at least it doesn't for me, to enter that grade in for each night, so I usually forget until I look at the next night and go back. Again, kind of clumsy stuff. It would seem like it'd be obvious just to pop that up and do that. And at this point, that's it. There's nothing else in this app. If I click on the Learn thing there, it gives you some stupid little videos that don't really help at all. If I click on the Settings tab, it just shows me like my sensor information, whether or not snoring detection's on or off, and then if I have any Health Fit access. So it says Health Access, that just means Apple's health platform there, whether or not it's connected. I can go ahead and change my goal time and sleep time like I set up earlier. But that's all there is to it. The only other thing it will do is if you missed your sleep goal for the night, so in other words, if you slept 6 hours instead of 7 hours, it will give you one of two suggestions on how to improve that for that day. In particular, it says 1, go for a walk, or 2, go outside and get fresh air. That is it. That is the only 2 things that ever tells you, no matter how badly you miss your sleep goal for that day, it tells you to simply take a hike. Like really, in this day and age, that's the best you could do, Apple, is 2 suggestions? Like my 2-year-old give me more suggestions than that. And that is where it all kind of starts to fall apart. Now remember, this is Beddit 3.5, which implies there's versions prior to that. And then there are indeed versions prior to that, the previous one being 3.0. And 3.0 was still pretty good. It had a lot of features in it, a lot of the same stuff. And I'm gonna have to scroll here to my notes because I'm gonna talk about all the features that are no longer in this product that Apple has ripped out between 3.0 and 3.5. Despite the fact that the price is the same. So number 1, there's no more sleep score. That useful thing that took all the different metrics together and gave you a score that you could track day to day, that's gone. There's no more expanded details on each or any of the metrics at all. You can't click on anything, you can't expand them, you can't put graphs on them, you can't, nothing. That's all like gonzo. There's no more explainers in the app. So you used to be able to like expand out a given section and get information right there about what that section meant. That's gone too. There's no more cloud sync. Apple killed that about a month and a half ago for even the Beddit 3.0 folks. So if I wanted to pull this up on my iPad, I can't do that. It's only on this device here and this device only. So kind of like Apple Watch data, for example. There's no more deep versus light sleep functionality. You used to be able to see whether you're in deep sleep or light sleep and kind of different sleep states. Nope, that's all gone. There's no more restless sleep tracking. You used to be able to find out how restless your night was. That's gone. No more Android support. I guess that's sort of understandable. I don't really understand why. I thought the whole new Apple was adding additional platforms like they've done for Apple Music, for example, but apparently not here. There's no ability to set notes. You used to be able to set notes in the app so you could like say in there, hey, there were fireworks this night, or hey, the kids were up 4 times. Nope, that's all gone now. That product functionality is zapped. And there are no more smart alarms. So you used to be able to go ahead and say what time you wanted to wake up, and it would give you basically this half-an-hour window before that where it would look at your sleep state and say, this is a good time to wake you up. That's gone too. And you may be saying, that's all right, Apple tidied it up or something stupid. And that would be true if Apple reduced the price. If Apple took it from $149 down to, say, $79, which is the price of the Withings sleep sensor, that would make sense. Except the Withings sleep sensor has all the same equal or even better functionality, in fact, better in almost every category, than this device here does. And that's half the price. And you say, well, it's Apple. But that's not true either. See, and that's part of the problem here, is that it doesn't actually say Apple anywhere on here. The only thing it says it's compatible with Apple. It does say in tiny little print, 2018 Apple Inc., all rights reserved. But they don't brand it as an Apple product. They brand it as a Beddit product. So when you brand it as a Beddit product as opposed to an Apple product, you lose the prestige of being an Apple product. You lose the fact that people might actually know about it, or might actually find it, or anything else, because it's no longer truly Apple. It's just a sub-brand. It's an entity, a subsidiary that they happen to own that is also sort of Apple. So I guess why I'm so kind of frustrated with this whole thing is that when I went online to buy the Beddit 3.5, there's almost no information. Apple's own site is essentially a blank slate. It's got one page on it that you can scroll through for like half a second, and it doesn't even tell you anything. It just simply says the sleep tracker and suck it up, Buttercup. So then you find all these reviews out there for the Beddit, and of course they mostly say Beddit 3.0, and you assume, well, 3.5 is better than 3, therefore it's going to have the same features of 3, just maybe a tiny bit more because of the whole 0.5 thing. You wouldn't assume that it was completely and totally gutted, which is what they did here. And so it's just disappointing. Like, every element of it is disappointing. If this was $79 or even $99, then I'd be like, yeah, it's all right. It's not the greatest, you know, competitive-wise, but it'll do, donkey, it'll do. But in this case, it just feels empty. It feels blank, you might say. And I've got to wonder, like, if Apple goes to a 4.0 version, what will be left? Will they completely end anything? You just open up the app and it's just a blank slate? I don't know, but that would take courage. Anyways, if you found this interesting, go ahead and whack the like button on the bottom or the subscribe button and all the buttons. Just click all the buttons down there, the ding dong button, the like button, the subscribe button. That really helps out the channel here, and will bring you more good sports technology content on the way. On the way? Soon. It'll bring you it soon. Like CES soon. CES is next week. With that, thanks for watching. Have a good one.